Hello, my name is Kim Sauer for EMSNow here at SMT Nuremberg. I'm joined today by three gentlemen. To the left of me, first of all, is Kiril Yanneff from a Bulgarian EMS company called Tremol SMD. We've got Sven Buchholz from ASM, machine supplier, and finally Frank-Ralf Mayer from Cicor, also an EMS company. Thank you very much for joining us today. Specifically today, what we'd like to do is talk a little bit about the Eastern European market. Clearly, you have a base there, so could you give me a little bit of insight into how you see the market at the moment, past, present, and maybe we'll talk about the future in a little while as well.
Okay, so for sure the market is growing in Bulgaria, because I can discuss for Bulgaria, I can speak for Bulgaria, and we obviously see that Romania is also growing, and this opportunity started 2006 when we entered the European Union, and everything became so easy. The transportation, traveling, everything. And then when we entered the EU, our Western partners, they started to trust more. So I think this was really the beginning point. Although you know that Bulgaria and Romania, they were during the communist times, they were the center of electronics. So we had the experience, we had the knowledge, we had the people, but historically and politically we had the misfortune to be outside of Europe at that time, sure. Before 2006.
Yeah. Okay.
So 2006, everything started. The crisis came, so everything just stopped, and now slowly it's getting back on tracks.
Is it a similar experience, therefore, for what you had?
Yeah, also, so we are since 1996 in Romania and Arad with our site. It's now our biggest site. We have more than 420 people now, and we serve all of our Europe customers. And what is a very fine thing, so as a member of the EU, all things make it much more easier, if that is for logistical points, financial standpoints, and it's really an advantage if you're talking today with a customer, what is possible. If you're talking about China, if you're talking somewhere Southeast Asia, you say, look, on logistical standpoint, financial standpoint, within EAU, automatic SAP transaction or something else, tax transaction between the borderlines, it's much more easy, and that is a really good advantage, because if you think about, if you were in Bulgaria, where he is located, 200 kilometers north of Sofia, which is not too far away, for instance, for Poland, or as we are very near to the Slovakian border, Hungarian border there. It's maybe 2 hours drive or 3 hours drive to somewhere in Poland, to Ukraine. It's nearly 4 hours drive to Germany, somewhere. Austria is not too far away. In some cases, it's former Austrian homeland. If you're talking about, for instance. And so that is a good advantage. You're flexible, you have logistical advantages, you have good people, good educated people coming out from the universities. Now it's very near to Middle European education. You have a two-step education, which is formally not there. You get good educated young people, and that gives you a really advantage against, now we're talking about Chinese, somewhere else, projects. And we see it very clear, because with our production in Vietnam, in China, Indonesia, we can compare it. What is much more easier? So the main easiest thing is, if we're talking about engineering, is language, discussion, and very often you have your customer based somewhere and you need a discussion with him a little bit, and you have to make things clear, and it's a real good advantage to talk about it.
And I can only second that. As a supplier of electronics equipment, basically what we see is the market growth might have slowed down a little, but still business has just moved a little eastward, especially to Bulgaria. So everyone reads about Hungary in a certain critical, let's say, times and uncertain times, but business is still there. It just goes a little bit further east to Romania or to Bulgaria. So we as a supplier just see that it is there, it still grows. It's just a regional shift is going on at the moment towards new markets like Bulgaria.
So
it's a slow start.
So talking about the new markets, how far is it going to go? What's the definition of Eastern European EMS market? Where are the borders of that? Do you have some thoughts?
I'd say we see some move from existing countries towards Ukraine.
Yeah.
So we have customers of ours setting up locations in Ukraine, which is certainly still a bit more challenging because it's outside the European Union, so you've got some customs issues, but still Ukraine is something. We have got customers in Moldavia. So I draw the circle, Ukraine, Moldavia, going to Bulgaria for sure.
For sure, yes. Well, probably his opinion is the most correct because he's a seller, so I'm just living in Bulgaria.
And you're focused on that market, yes.
But I don't know, for sure the ex-Russian countries, for sure. Moldavia, Ukraine, Romania and Bulgaria, it's clear.
Yeah.
Because already there are approaches there. So I don't know how much further. I don't know.
Okay.
And maybe one essential point is infrastructure. You have infrastructure, of course, in streets, the simple logistic points. A truck have to drive somewhere else. You also have to think about communication and a stable energy support. If you do not have a stable energy support, it's not possible to produce. And the next thing is now, in the meanwhile, a good established supplier base. Not only from the main suppliers' parts, even from the machineries and all the accessories you need around the production. And then you get a good base, you get trained people there, helps you to train, to establish linear production or anything else what you need around the production. And that makes you, at the end of the day, competitive to others.
Yes.
Traditionally, we've seen a lot of the production being outsourced over to China. Is Eastern Europe somewhere where it's coming back to, or is it that transient, Western Europe, Eastern Europe, then over, or is it market specific, or can't we generalize it as such?
I think the general tendency to outsource a lot or to move production or manufacturing to China somewhat has reached its peak in a certain way. People are rethinking. I mean, salaries are rising constantly in China as well. Supply chain issues, logistics issues. So I believe with the stronger infrastructure in Eastern Europe, with, let's say, with a new attractive market such as Bulgaria, I believe companies rethink whether they go to China or whether they keep it in Europe. For sure, high-wage countries such as Germany, companies in those countries will always look for some opportunities to save some cost. And Eastern Europe, in my opinion, is the far better choice than to go to Asia.
So it's a viable option to invest.
What is my
there.
current experience? Because we are discussing with a lot of customers. We have several projects which were transferred from Asia, from China to us, and we are always discussing pricing, of course, because quality is it's a must. Of course, no one discusses quality. And what I see and what I feel is that is quantity-wise. So if we are talking about millions, my experience is that we never get the chance to present ourselves. But when we are talking about hundreds of thousands, then we are becoming quite interesting because of the logistics issues, because of the defects rates, because So probably this is one of course we can handle
higher volumes.
and we can invest in machinery and etc. to cover those higher volumes. But I think the overall thinking is that if I have tens of millions, China is the place. So this is what my feeling is, of course.
And what do you think that's based on the fact that China is still a low-cost country where the labor costs are low? Also, you mentioned the education of people. Well, in China, I would expect it not to be at the level that the Eastern European countries can offer.
Well, one of the major points are language and discussion. Because if we see in our fab in Vietnam, which is Ho Chi Minh City, the people speak the written Latin, which is a real good advantage. They are speaking English because the Americans were so long, and they were a French colony, so they're speaking French fluently. As a Switzerland company, for us, we have a lot of people French mother tongue, so it's very easy to discuss that. On the other hand, if you think about costs it's not only the pieces and it's not only the final cost. Think about cash pool in a company today. We're talking more and more with financial guys from the customer and telling them, look, if you have not these millions fully automatic somewhere, if you have maybe 20,000, 30,000 pieces, a little bit more complex, think about your money. So we support you with safety stock, Kanban systems, whatsoever, and that can't be much more easier solved within an EU. That means because there's a nearly identical law system, a tax system, which is easier. You can do clearly and openly the invoicing. You can, and you should not forget that the stuff which is the stock at the customer's place is still yours. So you have to show it in your financial report, and it's not really possible if you have that somewhere in China in the really cheap areas. It's maybe possible if you have it in Shanghai. And it's even a little bit more difficult if you maybe want to do that in Bulgaria, for instance, and Romania, because they are members of the EU. So it's easy. So the transport is EU. Think about a triangle business. You're doing somewhere the cash coming there, you got the order from there, which is very typical. You have a lot of companies based maybe or headquartered in the UK or US, and maybe their daughters and decision makers sitting somewhere in France, in Germany, Switzerland, whatever, Austria, for instance. So you got the order from there, you will be invoiced somewhere there, and then deliver the stuff or the products, the ready product there. That means it's really complicated. And if you want to do that in a clear, in an optimal way, or also for the financial solutions, tax solutions, it's really a good advantage to be in Bulgaria, Romania, because of course you are price driven in that market, but you can deliver the quality the customer needs, you got the speed. Think about a few hours only away. Yeah. You can deliver them by time, by needs, on their markets, on their really needs. They can decide faster, you can do changes faster, even if that is in the type of product, if that's in the volume of the product or whatsoever. And that I think is a very good advantage.
What we do actually, our project managers, we have to deliver fast PPAP series or some samples. They took the plane on Saturday, on Sunday they're it's 2-hour flight to everywhere. Yep. And on Monday morning they're at the customer sites. And
fully agree.
It's totally... And the risk, because now we are under the EU observation, it's totally minimized. The risk that was calculated before, I mean, in the 90s or earlier, no such thing.
Times of ever shortening product life cycles,
yes.
Time is money.
Yes,
all the more.
of course, at the end of the day.
The closer you are to your customer,
yes.
the better for.
Yeah, so it's closeness to, it's time to market, closeness to the customer, reaction times, flexibility probably plays into it, which is also important, obviously, when you're designing your offering as what you're offering as machines. So all of those things, but it sounds to me that the integration into the EU is a vital aspect of the expansion of the EMS side in that market. So any country that isn't in the EU at the moment or isn't planning on coming in is still at a slight disadvantage, therefore. Is that correct?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, again, can only second Kiril's opinion. Since Bulgaria is member of the European Union, things got much easier also for us as a supplier. Yes. And this is basically benefiting us as a supplier, but foremost the customers.
Mm-hmm. A simple situation that you are not in the EU and you have a machine equipment which is in the EU and you need a fast engineering support or anything. I mean, now I just call and the guy comes. Yeah. I paid, of course, but
sure.
Everyone pays, of course.
And again, for you, because you're offering not just the machines, but the full service around it.
Yeah.
I mean, for us, especially now as a European provider of equipment, it's in particular a strong point and a competitive advantage because we got the chance now, we follow our customers. So basically in each and every country in Eastern Europe, we have our service locations, we have spare part stocks, also in Bulgaria.
Yes.
And that is certainly something we can do because we stem from Europe, we have the support organization behind it. That is a competitive advantage.
Sure.
If you speak the local language, if you can provide parts within 24 hours, that is a competitive advantage that others might not so easy.
We shouldn't forget maybe the now installed production base of our customers there. We've seen a lot. The automotive guys started first. They're coming with a lot of productions. If you like customers for Robert Bosch, for instance, if you're doing like with Basto, and you could all these big names. You see it somewhere in Bulgaria, even now in Poland, in Romania, somewhere in Hungary, whatsoever. And it means still you're seeing that your customers, the customer base in your production country growing up. That means, so we have now installed, for instance, an all sales guys there, only for the area. That means only sales guys in Romania for Romanian customers, for instance, or a little bit around, of course.
So again, development and investment within those countries. So if I could pass around the crystal ball, where do you see the market going? To wrap up.
Yes, of course. It's clear.
It's growing.
How high? I know, probably high enough.
Yeah.
But for sure it's growing. I can feel it.
Good. So, I mean, what you were saying is
crystal ball. Would be interesting to see where Hungary will be in 2 or 3 years from now. That is still the biggest market in Eastern Europe, and there's a big question mark hovering above it. But as I see the projects which we currently have done, Romania is taking some of the business, and especially Bulgaria has really strong growth rates. So I'd say we will see more from Bulgaria, more from Romania, and the big question mark is Hungary, to be very honest.
One of the key issues, I think, will be the development of Russia as well, the industrial base of Russia. If we think about 10, 15, 20 years ago, Russia had an established industrial base. Still now, it's more or less a little bit rotten, but it grows, and that means they need support, they need suppliers in that case, and you will see a lot of names, companies. You see Volkswagen, they opened a new site, BMW, Mercedes somewhere, and a lot of them, even the suppliers of them will follow. It means they will establish a new market for us, and that means new investments in that place, and it's ideal from the base then to deliver from Romania, Bulgaria, because the languages, especially in Bulgaria, are not so far away from the Russian language.
Well,
so
everyone
Romania
speaks
can a little
Russian
bit.
in Bulgaria.
Yeah.
It was mandatory.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So
it was mandatory.
Certainly a bright future for all. It's great news for everybody here. Thank you very much for talking to us, and very insightful information there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.